Alright, so as I said in what, like maybe 2 videos ago, 3 videos ago or something, new direction for my channel and such, and I'm gonna just start throwing out stuff, throwing out ideas in my head and see what the world thinks, see what the world thinks, potentially the entire planet thinks, on my stances on stuff. And while I was gonna start off by attacking the political correct zeitgeist that pervades much of the Western world now. The whole PC leftist that realm. Something came up recently, actually, I guess maybe about a day ago, 2 days ago, 2 days ago. That it really started getting me thinking. Geez, turn this off. It really started getting me to thinking. And every time I hear this argument from people, a little part of me dies on the inside because you can, no matter which side you argue for, you can pretty much hear them just blindly following it without actually logically thinking. Okay? And me, I try my best not to be left or right or anything like that because, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who knows me, left wing, right wing, same bird, flying in the same direction. But well, you'll see. All right, so one Aaron Clary, he posted up a video. What was this? January 29th, 2015. Nobody is retiring at 65. He's not the one that I'm talking about here. It's one of the people that went and wrote something on his page, to which point I went and responded, and some other people wrote, and some other people responded. I am actually going to read off the whole thing so far as of Saturday, January 31st, 2015 at 7:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to read off the short back and forth that we had, and then I'm going to get into what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is basically taxes. Taxes, the rich versus the poor versus whatever, just taxes. So we'll start off with this. The comment thread starts with one named that smart hot guy. That's really his YouTube name. And he says, quote, besides paying a shitload of taxes, the top 5% have also subsidized the poor in just terms of have also subsidized the poor just in terms of all the technological advances that make our lives more efficient and comfortable. We live in a country where even the poorest people carry around all the information known to man in their pocket. Even the poorest people are able to buy a vehicle that will transport them from point A to point B. Even the poorest people can walk into a grocery store which is filled from wall to wall with a huge variety of cheap food. Not to mention all the modern appliances that have. Okay, this thing did not load properly. One second, let me refresh this. Uh, Sorry about this. All right, read more. There we go. That when planning for that have my mistake. Modern appliances that have made doing chores quick and easy and freed up even more of people's time. And in the coming decades, we will have even more modern conveniences available, judging by the advances we are making in 3D printing, robotics, and other areas. Seriously, the poor people in modern America live better than most well-off people did 100 years ago. And it's all thanks to capitalism and the rich. The two things that so many of my generations, yes, S on the end, I'm quoting them, so many of my generations seem to hate. It astounds me that so many Americans don't realize how good we have it. Now, when I read that, I just, a little part of me died on the inside, and I've been in a back and forward. Uh, Not really so much back and forth because I noticed that nobody even actually addressed the points that I was going to make. Just 3 points. Nobody even addressed those points. And to which point I went and wrote to him saying, quote, only 3 things to say in response to your comment. 1. The poorest can't afford those things. 99.99% of homeless people can't walk into a store and buy food, don't have a car, and don't have the tech available to hold any amount of anything. They wouldn't be homeless if they could afford food, clothing, and shelter, which they could use to build off of and, supposedly, climb the climb through the socioeconomic ranks. Two, last I checked, the rich are the ones that run the government via politicians and lobby for laws, including tax laws, in addition to having offshore havens. Robert Kiyosaki, in addition to many others, have said that the tax laws favor the rich and hurt the middle class down. I dare say that the rich people are getting as much deductions, quote unquote, as godly possible, just like anyone else. If they were really getting squeezed for all their cash thanks to the supposed socialism, I'm not denying that socialism is creeping into this country. If anybody watched my there's a video that I have uploaded, Yuri Brezmenov. Watch that. I'm not denying that any at all. But suppose socialism, they wouldn't still be rich now, would they? On paper, they may supposedly pay, say, 50% in taxes, but after all their business expenses get factored in, not including the cheap labor most companies get from overseas, something everyone knows since no one in America wants to work for the wages Chinese get for the exact same for the same job, they can very easily pay up to zero in taxes, or at least quite close. I should have added that part in there, but zero in taxes. Let's see the average person living in America get their taxes down to even 3% no matter what they do. Side note here, I just finished doing my taxes and filed it. Uh, yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I don't want people seeing my business, I don't want the whole world seeing my business, I'd happily upload my tax and show that no matter what the fuck I did, my money was just fucking gone. Okay, my money was gone. And as far as I know, Maryland is telling me that I still owe them even more in taxes. Despite the fact that they took out so much already, I owe them even more. So, anyway, back to this. Three, why not compare us to people 1, 2, 3, 4,000 years ago by that logic? Would you take data from 100 years ago and try to mount any argument for anything? If yes, then, and well, I just put a face on there. You know Eric Cartman's face where his eyes pretty much turn into like an X or something, and then you have his mouth. It's pretty much like that. It's like a greater than sign, underscore, less than sign. That's what it looks like. Then that. If not, then why do it here? And anytime people, 100 years ago, really, you're comparing us to 100 years ago. The standard of living for people today versus 100. That is the most imbecilic thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, you know what? I mean, hell, you're doing. I mean, people on the street, homeless on the street, they're doing far better than people back in caveman days. That's exactly what that is. Smart hot guy, that's his name. Okay. Now I noticed that for the longest time, nobody said anything to those points. He never addressed them to up to the point where up to the date and time coordinates that I gave earlier. He never once addressed them. Some guy named Putseller 100 wrote to me. What we have a quote. What we have a problem with is defining rich. To some, it's a professional making 200,000 a year. To others, it's a business owner making 2 million a year. Where do people making 20 million, 50 million, and so on fit in this equation? This to me was just a deflection. To which point, I went and wrote back to him to Putseller, quote, whatever definition you have, you want to have, I think it's safe to say that no one is going to consider someone making or someone with slash making 50 to 99K rich. As to your other question, where do the people making 20 million, 50 million, and so on fit into this equation? They're called rich, mere rich, as opposed to those making billions who are called the super rich, who view the mere rich the same way the mere rich view people not making a million or more a year. Not going to get hung up on quote unquote definitions and the loopholes people are no doubt going to try to find in them and miss the main point. Now that smart hot guy, no. Marcel Lucassen went and wrote, the top five also, the top 5% have also subsidized the poor just in terms of all the technological advance. Wait, the top 5% have technological advances. LOL. Did the top 5% invent all the? Did the top 5% invent all the technological advances? Even if they did, who made all the equipment? If you flush your toilet, where does it go? Who's maintaining the infrastructure? At the end of the day, it's the average Joe. Oh, okay, it's a smart one. It's the average Joe who's doing all the work. Creating businesses is hard work too, maybe even harder, but more work hours get somewhat decent. Maybe even harder, or more work hours to get somewhat decent. So somewhere decent. Okay. To which point the smart hot guy, and I know he saw my quote, my post from this, simply because he went and addressed this guy roughly instantly, because YouTube shows them both at 11 hours ago, and yet my thing was sitting there from a day ago, and he didn't address it at all. So did I stump him? Did I get him? Does he? Does he realize he's not gonna throw smoke screen and red herrings at me and get away with it? I don't know, but he went and writes to Marcel Lucassen. Most people who maintain the infrastructure or have invented anything of use are in the top 5%. Who maintain, he didn't even say build infrastructure. He said maintain infrastructure. Construction workers are not rich. I have yet to see any rich construction worker who's actually on the street paving roads or anything. So I don't know where that smart hot guy. And now you see what I'm saying when I say they're so hell bent on their stance, this right-wing conservative stance or leftist liberal stance, that they don't see how dumb they sound when they talk. This guy just happens to be right-wing conservative. I mean, there's no shortage of liberals on YouTube I could get on for the exact same thing regarding taxes. But, okay. Some other guy, Zarg Dominator 77, went and said in response to Smart Hot Guy, quote, "That's definitely true. Most of our technological advancements come from startups founded by hungry individuals, and these startups turn into large corporations that create 50,000 plus in jobs. Get used to it." Okay. The top deck tile, the top deck, whoa. Yes, decile, sorry. The top decile of individual net worth came from people who provided value, that's in all caps, to society. Oh, love it when people say, oh, and, as if they happen to forget this huge point, like, oh yeah, let me add this as well. I'm so smart, but I happen to forget this one because I'm just too smart to. Oh, and the top 20% pay 93% of taxes. Besides, without the wealthy, who would provide the capital or infrastructure to build the modern economy or future of tomorrow? I'm sure that's a typo. It's tomorrow, but tomorrow. There's an A in there. Tomarrow. Okay. I can't believe all of these dumb fucking liberals. I can't believe that all of these dumb fucking liberals think that poor people actually contribute to society. They're poor for a reason, and that's in all caps. And then he has some source, which is CNBC, and yeah. Anyway, stay with me on this one. To which point I went and replied to Putseller 100. Whatever definition you want to have, well, actually, I already did that, sorry. To that smart hot guy, when he went and ignored what I wrote to him and went off to the other guy, I went and let it be known. Quote, I noticed that my 3 points weren't countered in any way. Either way, quoting his question or his statement, most people who maintain infrastructure or have invented anything of use are in the top 5%. Well, the other guy already went and countered him with that, but I came with this. Back to quoting me. Last I checked, and being in the computer field, I happen to know a bit about this. Microsoft and Apple weren't invented by people. Whoops, I put a typo. Were rich. It's supposed to be that were rich. They were invented in someone's garage. Microsoft, I'm sure of. Apple, now that I think about it, yeah, actually, I think Apple was also invented in the garage. Yeah. Neither was any of the old money titans of industry that are now, to quote, too big to fail today. Think Standard Oil, rails, or anything else that can say, quote, since 17 to 1900s. You know, whatever the hell since 1815, whatever the hell since 1792, or whatever the fuck, you get what I'm saying. How many people currently in the top 5% are there because they invented something while there, meaning while in the top 5%, versus made something while not there, not in the top 5%, and the money they made off their invention brought them into the 531%. P.S. The infrastructure in the USA is absolute shit, especially when compared to other countries that the USA is supposedly better than. Think Japan and some countries in Europe. And then the last one is where I respond back to Zarg Dominator 77. People and their freaking usernames. I quote his stuff and then I give my response to each one, almost dismantling it. Most of our technological advances come from startups founded by hungry individuals. To which point I responded, yeah, most if not all who were not rich when they had this idea/invention, but are rather in the bottom 95%. Oh, now him. Oh, and the top 20% pay 93% in taxes. And this is probably what sparked this video the most. And this is what I'm going to get into after I'm done reading this last comment that I made to him. Oh, quoting me now. Oh, and is that what they're supposed to be paying? If people are supposed to be paying 20% in taxes, person A in the bottom 95% pays 20%, which equals say 500K. Person B in the 1% pays 1% via loopholes, tax laws, whatever the hell, and they pay equal to say 1 trillion. Yes, in raw numbers, person B pays more. No one is talking about raw numbers. It's percent. When the tax laws aren't fair and neutral to everyone, and one person can get to pay less in percentage over another, that's where the problem starts. And I'll get on that in a second, but let me just finish this last thing. He says, besides, without the wealthy, who would provide the capital or the infrastructure to build the modern economy or the future of tomorrow? To which point I went and responded, the same people that provided all. I keep having a typo. The same people that provided it all throughout history. There was a point in time where there was no such thing as rich or poor. How did that start up then? How did the term wealthy come about? And where did the very first wealthy people that ever existed get their money from for what could be considered quote unquote startup? Einstein, Newton, and many others gave more to the world than anyone today. Were they rich? No. Proving that value to humans and society doesn't have to come from the monetarily rich/wealthy. And that's the end of the comment section. Now, the second point about the rich paying more in taxes and all of that. Here's what I'm thinking. Okay, here is what I'm thinking, and here is what I think the confusion is, and here's what I think people aren't understanding. Yes, the rich pay more in taxes. Okay, nobody's disputing that. At least I'm not. Okay. Yes, everybody wants to pay the least amount possible in taxes. Myself included. Again, I just did my taxes and the state of Maryland wants more money from me, which they are gonna have to fight tooth and nail for. Okay. Okay, they're probably eventually gonna get it, but they're gonna have to give me like notice after notice. It's probably gonna be next tax season before they get their money. Okay. Yes, everybody wants to pay less in taxes. Who the fuck doesn't? Okay. You work your ass off, you want your fucking pittance of compensation, however big that pittance might be, right? Okay, fine. The problem, as I said, comes in percentage. Yes, the rich might pay more in taxes. How much are they actually paying? I mean, there's no shortage of documentaries talking about tax havens and this and that. The government makes a big deal about fucking tax havens and all that. Why are those tax havens there? Hmm? Uh, there's no shortage of documentaries talking about these companies, like say Apple and others, that go into other countries, get these huge tax breaks in other countries, don't have to pay shit in taxes, so those other countries are still shit because they don't have to give any money to their thing, and then by the time that their lease, 10-year, let's say, lease or whatever the hell lease is up with that country, they pack up shop and leave. So they use the resources of the country, the cheap labor, the zero tax laws, or favorable tax laws, okay, and then they leave once it's like, okay, hey, we need to start benefiting from you all coming to our country, our land, and doing business. Since, hey, we gave you safe haven, we gave you asylum from the tax standpoint from America, and they're grab for your money. What are you going to do for us? Up, thank you, time to go. There's no shortage of documentaries out here talking about that kind of stuff, okay? Now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on that, but the fact is those things do happen, and just being on the surface, you don't even need to be some technical expert in the whole thing and be able to detect all the subtle nuances and whatever the fuck. Just that alone. You go into another country, you use the cheap labor, you go into another country, they have favorable tax laws that you can grow your fucking business. You know, you go to fucking Singapore that I guess has, well, Singapore's a good example. It's a good example. Let's say Singapore. You go there, they have whatever the hell favorable tax laws they have, but you don't do anything for their economy. Okay? Singapore is very hard to get into, by the way, because they do have favorable tax laws and the standard of living is high. They have a hell of a lot of millionaires, billionaires, but it's very high. The rich are very rich and the poor are extremely poor. Okay, and there's pretty much no middle ground, more or less, at least from what I've heard. Maybe that has changed by now. Um, perfect example. So what are you going to do? The main point of this is, and I don't want to have this video go too long. I mean, it's amazing to me how 30 minutes runs by so fast. Um, 20 to 30 minutes, except when I'm at work. But my main point is, nobody is saying that the rich should pay more in taxes. At least I'm not. I'm not saying that the rich shouldn't try to pay as little tax as they can. Hey, if you can find a way to pay zero tax, fine. The problem comes when they, through their lobbies, through their whatever, because we all know that they're there, okay? Again, as I said in the previous comment to one of those guys, and Robert Kiyosaki said it in his own book. I think he said it in Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I actually have on my shelf in the back, okay? Um, Tax laws favor the rich. Whatever the hell the government tells the public, oh, just the rich pay a little bit more and spread the wealth around. Whatever the hell they're telling us pros, us pawns, us people at the bottom of the pyramid to try and make it seem like, yeah, 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 you're for us. Yeah, no, no, that's what they're telling you. What people say anything. Anybody can say anything. You know, a girl can say she's gonna fuck you. You know, a guy can say he loves you. Anybody can say anything. What's actually happening? Hmm? What's actually happening? Are the rich really getting taxed more? More than likely not. Okay, more than likely not. Versus what is being said. The point is, the regular person has no access to fair and equal laws of which they can use to lower their taxes the same way the rich can use to lower their taxes. That, I think, is the problem why everybody's like, oh, the rich don't pay their fair share in taxes. I mean, apart from, again, all the, really, freaking offshore accounts, you have to have how much before you can get that? Really? An offshore account of consequence, not just opening up some regular bank in some other country, right? Just a whole bunch of different stuff, right? Regular people don't have access to those kind of laws and loopholes and stuff that the rich do, and that is where the problem comes in, because it's like, okay, you're telling me to pay 20%, I'm paying the 20%, this person is paying 1%, they're not going to jail. If I went and did anything to try to get my shit down to 1%, chances are it would be deemed illegal and I'd end up getting thrown in jail for tax evasion and tax fraud and whatever the fuck all else. How the hell is that fair? That, I believe, is what people are complaining about. Now, if it's not what people are complaining about, and it's just, oh my God, rich pay more because you're rich. Okay, well, sorry, I don't agree with that. But if you're telling me that it's 20%, Okay, fine, 20%. If the rich only get to pay 1%, I want to only pay 1% as well. Okay, because hell, everybody, it's our finite time on this planet. I don't think anybody's going to say, well, the rich deserve to, but I don't because they're somehow special or something. No, my time is worth more than anything else. And I think anybody from the person homeless on the street right up to, I don't know, the Rothschilds, secret government, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and all of that alternative theory. Okay, everybody thinks that their time is valuable beyond any kind of monetary measure. Well, guess what? I think it's valuable. The rest of the world apparently doesn't, and they want to give me some monetary compensation for sucking out my time on this planet, my life force on this planet. Fine. If you want to do that, I want to get back as much as that as possible, as much of that as possible, right? Okay, well, I think I should have just as equal access and opportunity to use and not actually access or opportunity, because you could be like, oh, well, just to make some multinational corporation conglomerate, you have this as well. No. Everybody have the laws be able to apply to them equally. If this person can get that law, this person can also get that law and actually use that law wherever the hell they're at. Which means if you're making 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, $100 trillion a year, doesn't matter, you can use this law to get back some more money out of your taxes, or no, get back, pay less in taxes, okay? Which leads to the ultimate conclusion. The government just needs to be reduced, if not, well, I wouldn't say eliminated, but be reduced to where they don't need this much taxes out of them, okay? To where they do not need so much tax that they just got to keep sucking it from everybody, sucking it from the rich, sucking it from the middle class, sucking it from the poor, sucking it from everybody. The government just needs to be fucking reduced to little and nothing. That's my answer. And then, of course, anybody should be able to just walk into the government, walk into, I don't know, the Federal Reserve or wherever the hell, and be like, yo, let me see your statements. Let me see your accounting statements. Where the fuck is this money that I am giving you going? Yes, the government only needs $1 billion to run. Imagine if that was ever the case. Only needs $1 billion to run. I paid $48.22 in taxes. Show me an itemized receipt of what my $48.22 went to. That, my dear friends, is what I think should be the case. And everybody else get to keep their fucking money. As much of their money as possible. That's what I think it is. But you're telling the rich that they pay, let's say, 50% in taxes. Okay, that's all well and nice, but then they have all these loopholes and special counters and like underground tunnels that they can go and funnel their money to where they only pay 1% in tax. And it's like, okay, I'm paying 20%, you're paying 1%. Yes, I'm only paying 50,000 at 20%, and you're paying 1 trillion at 1%, but it's still not 20%, which was what we were. How did you do it? Well, I did it by this. Okay, can I do that? Well, no, you can't. It's only reserved for the rich people. It's only reserved for people this making this much money. It's like, what? No, have all the laws be able to apply to everybody no matter how much money they're making. Reduce all the reduce the fucking government. Reduce the laws. Go through every single law on a national, state, and local level. Weed out the laws that don't need to be there, which is probably like 9/10 of them, right? Weed out the government and reduce it to like reduce it by like 9/10 of what it actually currently is. So it's just simple, mechanical, clockwork government. That's it. Simple as, very simple stuff, right? Reduce it from a fucking Veyron down to a Honda Civic. Put it to you like that, all right? Where you only need like what, a 10 millimeter wrench to fix the entire car, no matter what's wrong with it, versus God knows what you'd need to fix a fucking Veyron. That's my point. Okay, and I don't want to make this go over 30 minutes, but that, my dear friends, is my point. Everybody wants to keep their money. If we're paying 20%, let's pay 20%. If we're paying 50, let's pay 50, and watch everybody essentially burn this country to the ground. If we're paying 1%, let's not have one person be able to get at 1% and everybody else who's not in this special elitist club, right, have to pay God knows how much. Let's have everybody pay 1%. That, my dear friends, I think is the thing with this whole taxes and the 99% versus the 1% and, oh, tax the rich versus, oh, well, we need to keep all our money and they can pay more taxes. Fuck them, but we need to keep our money because, well, who's going to build the infrastructure and who's going to create the business and all that stuff? Hell, who the fuck is going to buy? I mean, shit. I mean, what? Oh, okay, leave the rich their money. Let them take as much and don't give it, and then don't give those same abilities to the poor people, and the poor and middle class, I guess, middle class, whatever that entails. How much stuff is the rich people buying? Okay, if the poor people are getting taxed to death, poor and middle class are getting taxed the fuck to death. Who the hell is buying? Who the hell is keeping these businesses up? Okay, Microsoft. Let's use them as an example. Fine. Okay, let Bill Gates and all them keep their money. All the rich people in Microsoft. Fine. How much of stuff are they buying? Hmm? How much things are they buying? It's still on. No matter how rich you are, there's only so much you're buying and no more. So, if it puts you like this, could the economy survive just off the expenditures of the 1% or the 5% or anything else? Hmm? All the restaurants on the planet, could they survive? In the US, could they survive? All the restaurants, the clothing companies, the car companies, could they survive off just the rich who have the vast majority of money? Could they survive? That's the question I have to you. Yes? Okay, fine. Well, you know what? Let the rest of us be poor and let them survive. Why the hell are so many businesses falling right now? Huh? Because they're not able to make any money. And why not? Because the vast majority of people that are going to be keeping them fucking afloat, Forever 21, how many rich people patronize Forever 21? Or Victoria's Secret? Or anywhere, just pick a company. A gas station, any gas station, Shell, Exxon. How many rich people patronize there versus non-rich people? Where's the vast majority of your money fucking coming from? Yes, they have the vast majority of wealth, the 1%, or what, like 95% of the world's wealth is owned by 5% of the world's population. Fine. Can the world economy survive off 5% of the population? How much food can they eat to keep every single business going? Now you see where I'm getting at. As much as you want to praise the 1%, the 5% for building all this stuff, well, who's the one keeping it? Yes, the body's there. Where's the blood coming from to keep the body going? Well, that's coming from the middle and poor class. Well, hey, you know what? If the blood isn't flowing, and in this case, meaning the middle class can't afford shit because they're getting taxed the fuck to death, the businesses are going to fall, right? Okay, then. Well, I think we now realize for whatever argument you can come with why the rich should pay the least amount in taxes possible, I dare say anybody with some intelligence can come up with 10 arguments for why the middle class, and dare I say poor, but at least middle class, should also pay the least. Which leads us to what? Well, hell, if nobody's paying taxes, how's the government going to work? Well, first of all, the government needs to go on ahead and lose some weight, right? And then it's like, okay, here's 1% of my money. Live off that, make do, and if you can't, well, yeah, you can. Simple as. I guess that means that a hell of a lot of shit from all these fucking wars that need to be paid for, right down to these entitlement programs, all need to fucking go. But I dare say people are going to be happy if they only have to pay 1% of their money, of their taxes, versus however much percent they're paying right now. God knows I'd love to only pay one. I'd love to pay zero, obviously. Who wouldn't? But I'd love to only pay 1% of my take-home pay in taxes. Just 1%. I'd love that. I'm sure rich people would love that as well. I'm sure the poor homeless person on the street would love that. Whatever. But that's my point. So that's my stance. Let's see what everybody else says about that. All right. Have a nice day.